All right, thank you, Lisa. Appreciate the intro there. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for taking the time today to come and visit with us and talk about the Vault Client Utilities and the new 2021.1 release. So, like Lisa said, my name is Jason Johnson. I'm a Senior Application Engineer here at IMAGINiT in the Manufacturing Solutions Division, and been working with the Autodesk products for about 12 years now. Had prior experience in the engineering world, so hopefully bring a little bit of context and a little bit of experience with what we'll talk about today. So we'll go ahead and jump right into it. We'll be discussing what the new features are that came out in the 2021 release. And the kind of like the flagship one that we're really proud of here is the ability to create flat patterns from our sheet metal parts. That's going to be utilizing our job processor in the Vault environment to go ahead and get those flat patterns made, to help alleviate some of those extra non-value add steps of, having to open it up ourselves, do all that export, checking that in, right? So that's kind of been a theme with the Vault utilities in the past is trying to help alleviate those non-value add tasks. We still have the ability to create step files and even convert to AutoCAD drawings. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff in there in the Vault. And this is just the latest to that suite of features to help, again, with handling some of those manual tasks. The next one that we worked on was the automate the folder properties to synchronize to another folder. So when I'm sorry, this one is the file. So when a file gets checked into the Vault, and once the folders are configured in such a way, when that file gets checked in, any matching properties from the folder that are also on the file will be automatically pulled in. And this is going to be handy for projects or project folders that have some properties in there that are project specific, project name, customer, location, things like that might be pretty widely used in all the files that are going into that project folder. So instead of having our users manually type that stuff in for every single file, we're able to synchronize and pull that information from the folder properties and have them synchronized to the parts and other files in that folder. We can even go in and cascade subfolders, grabbing properties from parent folder and synchronizing them to child or subfolders. And finally, the last new big feature is the ability to reserve part numbers. And this is going to be handy for when we're utilizing the sequential number schemes in Vault, where Vault basically gives us an automated number, right? It's always has been a first come, first serve. And there's never really been a good way to say, hey, I need to block out 10 drawings or 10 file names because I want to keep them all in a group. And just because of the nature of the way Vault works with that auto number generator, it's always been first come, first serve. But now with this utility, we're able to go in and kind of reserve a set amount of files and take those sequential numbers and kind of keep them for ourselves or whoever else might be asking for those files. So let's take a little bit deeper dive into some of these features. So again, with the sheet metal flat patterns, this is going to be accessible inside of Vault. If you right click on a file, you'll find the context menu for it, and it'll allow you to send that file to the job processor to get the flat pattern extracted. You could also do it on a folder, and it'll go in and kind of sniff out all of the files in that folder, and then you have the ability to pick and choose which ones out of that folder you want to submit to the job processor to get that flat pattern extracted, because maybe not all of those files in the folder would be necessarily a sheet metal file, but so it does give you the ability to kind of pick and choose when you selected the folder. You can also, if you are already in the folder, you can do like a shift select or control click and just kind of select any of the files that that you know ahead of time that you're going to go ahead and create these flat patterns for. And it's also available in a lifecycle transition, so we can have the ability to add in custom jobs on a transition. So perchance, or perhaps like on a release, we could say that these files would get their flat pattern created. And we'll take a look at all of this. We're going to go through and take a look at all the features through the PowerPoint here, and then we'll jump in and kind of demo all of this. Next, we do have a little tip for when it comes to working with our sheet metal parts, and that is we do have the ability from Vault to identify which files are sheet metal, and even things like if they're weldments or if they belong to tube and pipe. And it's being able to, unfortunately, it's not something that's out of the box. If you go in and create a property and then map it to one of the inventor properties called doc subtype name, that will pull out what type of file it is. Is it a sheet metal file? Is it a weldment? Is it a normal part? And that can be useful for, again, something like this, the sheet metal extraction, as well as doing searches and even categorizing files, as we'll see in the demonstration. It is a read-only property, so it's only going to come from the file, and it's we don't have a way to change it in Vault. It's just going to be for informational purposes. And unfortunately, it's only going to be available for inventor files specifically. So if we're in a multi-CAD environment, we might have to utilize some other means to identify those types of files. So again, just a little tip there to help you with this sheet metal extraction workflow. So next we have synchronized subfolder properties. So again, if we have a top level folder that we have filled in properties for on a specific project, things like project number, client, location, those property values can be synchronized or extracted and pulled into subfolders. And again, we can do that at a single folder at a time, or you can do multiple folders and have all those properties pulled in automatically. And again, the key thing here is to make sure that all of the property names are matching. So only the names that match are going to get written into. And you also don't have to worry about overwriting. So if your subfolders already have a value, say in project number, this synchronize will not overwrite. So if you have something there, it'll keep it. And if not, if it matches, then we'll take it on from the parent. Next, we'll talk about the AutoSync folder properties. So again, this is where when we check in a file, we can have Vault or have the utility go in, find those matching property names, and fill in that data for us. So again, all very project specific stuff, project name, project location that we would want to have on our part files and assemblies, again, for searching capability and what have you. And we can set up as many of these as we can. It's kind of a rule-based approach where we identify what folder, which categories are we going to pick and choose from, and then basically at that point, it's hands off from the user's perspective. Every time the file gets checked in, these rules get run, and if they match, cool, we're going to grab the properties, and again, no user interaction is necessary. Again, trying to alleviate some of that non-value add time from our designers, where filling out properties, not so much a good time there. And this is actually the first of many folder synchronized events. So we do have plans on introducing some other ones, and in the chat or in the questions, feel free if you can think of any others that might be handy. We would definitely take that feedback to our developers and look at seeing if that's something that we can put in the product. And then finally, we have the reserved numbers. So again, this is specifically meant for those number schemes that are sequential in nature, where we're having that automated number given to us by Vault. And what we basically can do is just go in, run this utility, and tell it which scheme we want to have this apply to, and then how many do we want? Do we want 5, a block of 5, a block of 10, however many we want. Once that's run, as you can see in the screenshot here, it grabs those numbers, it even copies them to the clipboard so that those numbers are now already used. So the next time somebody goes to run the save and get their file name, it will skip over whatever we've reserved on this list. So that's kind of been a highly requested feature for a lot of my customers, a lot of my clients who, kind of got frustrated, like, in their existing system, they've always had the capability to block out, those numbers for them. And unfortunately, that had never been in the product. And now we have this utility here that kind of gets us there, gets us one step closer to, that euphoria of file naming. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the product here. All right, so here we are in Autodesk Vault 2021. And first thing we'll do is take a look at our sheet metal extractor. So here we've got this file, I've got this in INVENTOR. It's a sheet metal part, and you can see we do have a flat pattern for it. So once that file has been, that flat pattern was created and checked in, it's ready for processing in Vault. So again, it's just found in the right click in the context menu, IMAGINiT Utilities, and we're going to create the flat pattern. So we've had previously the ability to create a DXF out of drawings and what have you, but this flat pattern DXF is specifically for the sheet metal file types. So it's just going to give us a little feedback here, letting us know which file we're working on, which one we're going to do, so we know that if we had multiples selected, we would have the opportunity to uncheck certain ones that didn't meet the criteria that we needed. And then the next choice is, do we want to publish it to the Vault, which will, if that option is chosen, the DXF file will live in the same folder that the file came from. If we want to publish it externally, say, somebody, the manufacturing shop maybe doesn't have access to Vault, we could publish it to a network share where they would have access to it and they can take it and feed it into their machines and go ahead and work on it as needed. So we'll go ahead and publish this to the Vault. So it tells us that success, we have a sheet metal flat pattern job created. I'm going to take a look at my job processor here real quick. We're going to pause it and wake it up to have it run that job. We'll wait here for a couple seconds while that gets processed. We'll pop back into Vault. And should be here momentarily. Still processing. All right, looks like it finished up there. We'll go ahead and do a refresh. And there it is. We've got our casetop.dxf file. You can go ahead and open that up. I'm not going to check that out. Yep, we'll open it read-only. And here's our DXF file opened in AutoCAD, ready for the machinist to go ahead and do what they need to do to it. If there's any kind of cleanup they want to do, it's ready and raring to go for them. So like I said, this could also be done as part of a transition. So if we were to go in and release the part file here, we could also have Vault say, go ahead and run that job and create it automatically for us. Again, trying to keep hands off, non-value add work, trying to eliminate as much of that as we can. So next, we'll talk about the subfolder property syncs. So here we've got a project type folder, and it's noted by this green color here. So we do have some properties on it. So just a few simple project related properties, who the customer is, what the project number is, and maybe a start and an end date. But what we can see here is that one of the subfolders that we put in here, the CAD subfolder, has a similar set of properties, but those are blank. And instead of having to go in and retype all that information, what we can do now is just right click on that subfolder and ask it to sync folder properties. And it gives us feedback that one folder was updated successfully. We'll do a refresh. And you can see that now these values have been picked up and synchronized from the parent folder. And again, you could run that on multiple folders. So if we had a series of other project type subfolders, we could simply shift select all of these. Again, just find that from our right click and synchronize folder properties to the subfolder. Now that's not going to work on some of these other basic folder types because there are no properties here, but that would work. So you can do it either one at a time or in multiples. Next, we'll talk about how to some of the property synchronization that we pull from the folder and automatically put it into the part file. So again, what we want to take a look at is like project number here. We want that to automatically be entered into the part file when we check it in. So I'll come back to Inventor, and we'll take a look here at part1.ipt, the ever popular cube. And we're going to go ahead and try to check this part into Vault. So once that's done, we'll take a look back over here, do another quick refresh. We'll take a look at the part file. You can see that that project number was filled in automatically for us. So again, this could be set up, we set those up on a rules type basis. You can find that in our IMAGINiT Utilities menu and the folder sync events. So again, you can have as many of these as you need to satisfy the requirements that your company might have. And if we take a look at it, all we're doing is we're telling it what file we want to look at, what is the category of folder, parent folder that we're pulling from, what are the categories that we want to synchronize to, and at that point, we're all set to go. And like we said, this is the first of many going to the future. So right now, the one event that we have is when a file is added. So if there are other events where you would like to see the synchronization from folder to file, let us know in the comments, and we'll see what we can do to try to get those put into the product. Go ahead and close these out here. And finally, we'll talk about the reserve utility. Again, we're going to find that in the tools, IMAGINiT Utilities, and reserve numbers. So what we're prompted here is to just go in and identify which scheme we want to pull the file numbers from. I'm going to go ahead and take it from this sequential files. And how many do you want? How many do you want to reserve? We'll go ahead and say pull 5 numbers. And it goes in and we now have reserved 1684 through 1688. So now as kind of a proof of that working, we can come into Inventor, create a new part file. And when we go to save it, and we look at that sequential file number, you can see that it is one after the block that we took. So going forward, those 5 numbers, Vault will never offer to another user, and you can then go in and add in those yourself that you reserved for your block. And we can save that and check that file in. So again, very, very simple in the approach, but very, meets a lot of customers. Hopefully will meet the expectations where, we had an unsatisfactory experience with the number scheme, being able to block out numbers. So hopefully this helps close that gap. So that's really it on the demonstration side. Going to jump back over to the PowerPoint here. And we do have a few other things that we can talk about. So there have been some other minor enhancements to the product, like really kind of quality of life type of stuff. And what we were able to do in this release is we now utilize the INVENTOR PDF print driver. On our standard folders tool, we have a little more feedback for the users, and the folder templates that were already in there also support these file properties synchronizations. So real quick, like we said, the built-in INVENTOR PDF, in prior releases, we were relying on a third-party driver, and we weren't quite getting all of the results that we expected. Like there was some fidelity issues between what users could do with INVENTOR and their PDF versus what was being generated with this third party. We're now using that native that native PDF print driver for INVENTOR, and it's hopefully going to alleviate a lot of those fidelity issues. One PDF should look the same whether it came from a user or if it came from our utility. Next, the standard folder feedback. So this is a tool that when a user logs in, they can have files automatically downloaded for them. Very handy for things like templates, where if an administrator updates them, instead of having to send out an email and asking everybody, hey, can you download the latest templates? With this tool, people are able to get those downloaded automatically. Again, no thought, no action from the user. It just happens when they log in. And what we've done here is we've just kind of given some feedback to the user to say, hey, these are the files that got downloaded. Because before it was just like, hey, you've got 3 new files. And it was up to the user to kind of figure out which ones were the new ones. And now with this, they can go in and see exactly which ones have been updated. And they're now more equipped to go ahead and do that job. And again, it's not interactive. It's just kind of an FYI tool. And then in addition to our folder templates tool, we now have the ability to copy folder properties. So if you had set up a folder structure as a template, you can now add in your properties, put some values in there, and when we go and create our folder structures based on those templates, the folder property values come along too. So we're just kind of supporting what we've already put out there with some of that new technology that we developed for the other tools. This also works on the update. So if you had created a folder structure based on a template and you made some changes to that template, you can go in and do an update based on that template, and all those new changes will propagate, including properties. So that's really it that we have for this presentation here. We got some last minute things we want to take care of, some questions here. Do we need a new license? So if you are one of those half of the crowd here where you're already using the Vault utilities, you do not need to get a new license. Once you get the new installers, it'll just pick up on that existing license and you're ready to go. So the next question is, well, where do I get them? And those, the installer utilities are here in these locations. Both network and standalone are ready for download and use. The caveat there is those are the installers. You will need activation codes for standalone or a license for the network. And if you're the other half that haven't yet tried the IMAGINiT Utilities, you can request a trial, or you can actually get them if you're already a subscriber, an Autodesk subscriber with IMAGINiT. These are available to you for free, and you can get your entitlement at the website listed here. And so yeah, that's right. This is a paid for product if you aren't using or if you're not a subscription customer through IMAGINiT. And but if you are, this is ready and willing and able to go for you guys. So those are some of the basic questions we might have seen. And again, just some of the other things for those folks that have not yet used our utilities. Some of the other things that are in the box, we have email notifications and lifecycle change. So we can send out emails to people like on the shop floor when something's released. We can actually pull out an inventor bill of material into an Excel sheet. So maybe we could pull that out and send it off to our purchasing compadres who will go forth and take that bill of material and get it all ordered. We can create PDF, STEP, DWG, and DXF files from all of our inventor drawings. Like we mentioned before, you have the ability to create a folder structure as a template for use in downstream projects, as well as standard folders for automatic download. Again, going back to the idea of having, if you have your templates in Vault or some other kind of reference documentation, and you want to make sure that your users are always up to date, just go in, identify these folders as standard, and every time the users log in, they'll be sure to get the latest and greatest when something does change. And there's a bunch more in there, but we don't want to take up too much time here. So,
and they're also listed in the handout as well that you can download. So Jason, do you want to address some of these questions that we have? I can read them off real quick.
Sure. Let's go ahead and go for it.
Okay, so our first one was, we need to be able to apply lifecycle notifications to all subfolders under the main. Will this be added?
All subfolders under the main.
For lifecycle notifications.
Right. I agree that would be a good enhancement. I don't think that we're quite there yet, but we will take that feedback and let our developers know that that's going to be high on the list for some of our users.
Okay. And then if I have the sync properties to a file and I use copy design from another location, will the properties get updated using that workflow?
It depends on your copy design settings. So in copy design, you have what we call action sets, and depending on how you've developed or how your action sets work, one of the default action sets is to just clear out all properties, or to just leave them. That's another one of the out of the box ones. So if your action set is to clear, then all of the properties are going to get wiped out and put into their default states if you have any defaults. And if they're left, and if we don't do anything to those properties, they're just going to carry over to their new locations where we're copying them to. So at that point, you may want to update that folder you're copying it to with the properties, and then sync it after the fact, after you run that copy design.
Okay. All right. When checking DWG files out of the Vault, is there a way to check out the file and all the X references at the same time and then save them to one network folder on my computer?
So yeah, there is a way to open and check out all the X references. Let me go ahead and clear out of here. I don't know if I have an example to show right out of the box, but it's going to be similar with assembly files. So when we go in and open or check out, so like here we can do a get on the file, and you can say you just get the one, or you can say go ahead and include the children. And at that point, you get all the child files. So this updates here to a download count of 10. So there's 9 children. And we can also check out at this point too. So we can come over, click the checkbox, and we're going to download and copy, or download and check out all of the assembly and the subcomponents. And again, they go to your default workspace. But we also have the ability to, in here, to change the location. So here, the default is always going to be to your working folder, or you can browse to a different location. So if there is somewhere out on the network that you want to put these files that you have checked out, you have the ability to go in and navigate to a folder somewhere else.
Okay,
Hopefully
great.
that answers the question.
Okay, so I downloaded the utilities earlier this week, but I don't see the create flat pattern option. What do I have to update to get this feature? Vault Professional 2021 seems to be up to date.
Yeah, so there has been some last minute feature changes that we had to go through. If you download them today, you might want to go through, uninstall what you have, and download the current ones, the most current version, and install those. And your all these utilities should be in there now.
Okay.
And,
all right. Is it possible? Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to explain one step further. So the initial 2021 release was basically compatibility, backward compatibility, and we hadn't had many new features introduced at that time. These new features are coming out as part of the 2021.1 update. So first pass is compatibility. This .1 release is where all the new features are going to be found.
Okay.
About that, Lisa? All
right, thanks. Okay, is it possible to map the layers using the flat pattern utility?
There is an INI file that gets installed as part of the Vault utilities that has all of the color and layer defaults in there. Right now, everything had been set to color 000. Everything was by layer on layer 0. But yeah, there's an INI file. Let's see if I can. I had that at one point. IMAGINiT jobs. Yep. So in where these get installed at in the program data. So in this folder here, where the jobs get installed, you have the Sheetmetal INI file, and it's just a text file that can be edited in Notepad. And any changes you want, go through and make changes here, and hopefully that suits your needs.
Okay, and I think that might have answered the next question that mentioned something about the line type and colors being set within the tool, or is it based upon the setting in the IPT file? So it looks like it's all handled here.
Correct, yep.
Okay, perfect. So for reserving numbers, can you have any type of numbering scheme? For example, my company has a numbering system similar to XXX-XXX-XXS.
Mm-hmm. So really, this tool was meant to address specifically the types of, let's see, let's look at this one here. So as you build a numbering scheme, you can kind of build it and concatenate these fields. And this really is meant to address the one field that's called auto-generated. And this is where Vault's feeding us a number based on a number that it's keeping track of. So if you have something else that's like purely user entered, then this tool really doesn't help address that. This is just helping to overcome the limitations that we have around this auto-generated field.
Okay, but if that label, that section right there that says label fixed type and it says T, if they had, for instance, the first prefix of their numbering scheme there and the last three as they're auto-generated, would that work?
Well, let's take a look at that. So IMAGINiT Vault Utilities, reserve numbers. Let's take a look at that task one. So it looks like there's no opportunity to change what that would be.
Okay.
So again, it's just addressing that auto-generated field.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Is this utility only compatible with a single version of Vault, or does it work with multiple versions of Vault?
So this one will specifically work for Vault 2021. We have releases that match each year, right? So in Vault 2020, we have the Vault 2020 utilities, but some of these new features are not available in those earlier releases.
Okay. Let's see. Does the template folder structure run as a specified Vault user/admin? I ask because I may have project folders that users cannot access, but they may be the ones to copy the folder structure.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, when we look at our template folder administration settings, go ahead and edit that. We can specify that admins are the only ones who can run it, basically.
Okay.
So typically what I would do is, in where you're keeping those templates, those are typically in a folder that I would have an admin only folder permission on. So that would help take care of having users, tinkering with the structure, but then having them be able to just run the utility is just normal behavior, out of the box behavior.
Okay. On the Excel BOM extract, is it possible to pull the parts only instead of the model data?
So we'll go in and take a look at what their options are for the BOM export. So a bunch of things here. So basically what we can do is structure the Excel sheet so we can identify which headers that we want to pull out and sort them. So whatever fields are currently available, we can add or remove them. And then we can also do it based on the version or the revision. But I don't believe, I think this is just using the model data. I'm not, because I know there's three of them, right? The structured, parts only, and model data. I believe this is using a structured, but I'm not 100% sure if it's possible to access the parts only through here, but that might be something good that we mentioned to our developers.
Okay. How can we get a notification every time a file is checked in, but in parentheses it says not state change?
Anytime it's checked in, there's nothing really out there for us on that. But the closest thing we have is in 2021, we have the ability to turn on checkout or download logging, so we could see who downloads a file. But as far as notifications on check-in, I don't think we have anything to address that yet.
Okay. Can the email notifications be sent to specific users based on folders they're applied to? The Vault Server Utilities has something similar, but is lacking a lot that I've already requested, separate utility.
So the lifecycle notification can identify, it's another rules-based one, so we'll take a look at what that can do. So again, you identify what folder are we watching, what category of files are we watching, what is the lifecycle definition that we're watching, so we can get really narrow, really dial in on what we're looking at, and then once we select that, then we can choose which transition that we want the notification to happen on, and then with all of that, defining what folder and what stuff we're monitoring, then we can identify who the email is going to. So you can pull it from groups that are already in Vault. Right, so maybe if we just wanted to pull in the administrators, sorry, I don't think our users have any emails, but whoever whoever is in a group, right? If you go in and select a group, the utility will go in, find all the users, and if they have email addresses in the system, they'll be populated in here. Or if you need to send them outside of Vault users, again to maybe manufacturing or purchasing, you can put their email addresses in here manually. So I hope that answers that question.
Okay. And then we have, so if I've downloaded the utilities in the past, let's say it's the 2021 version, is the registration still the same? Can I just go to the site that you listed on that PowerPoint and use the key I already have?
Yes, if you have a 2021 license already, this update will sense it, and you won't need to get another one.
Okay.
So it'll reuse it.
And I believe there was some change too earlier last year that would allow people to reuse their registration keys when they downloaded the new versions also, because I believe we sent out a notification about that. So I will find that information and send that on to the person who asked that question. Okay, and then the last one that we have, are you able to walk through the multiple file checkout process later following the meeting? There seems to be some difficulty with the checkout the parent and children with extracts. It only checks out the top level file. So I'll send you his contact information if you're able to reach out to him after the webinar.
Yeah, sure thing.
Okay. Oh, and so do you have any information about the single sign-on differences between the IMAGINiT Utilities for Vault Client 2021 Network and the IMAGINiT Utilities for Vault Client 2021 NLM, which it sounds like may have been downloaded earlier? They're showing up as if they're two separate.
The NLM is the network license version. I'm not quite sure.
So is the other one.
Right,
it's just
right.
One says network and one says NLM. And I'm not sure if there's differences between the single sign-on. It might be something I have to reach out to Matt Mason about. So the two types are listed on the IMAGINiT site currently. Okay, we'll check into that, Brian, and reach out afterwards. Let's see, I think I've gotten through. So there's no ability to apply email rules to subfolders, right?
Not really. You have to target the folder itself.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that wraps up everything we have. As I mentioned, this is recorded, so we will send out a link to that. If you want to see all of the utilities for Vault Client, there are some recorded webinars in the Resource Center, so I'll also send that link. Feel free to download the handout, and if you have a couple minutes, I do have a survey. It's just 4 short questions, if you wouldn't mind answering that. Thank you all for attending today, and thank you, Jason, for a great presentation. We'll wrap this up. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.